Welcome back to Love at Any Age. I'm Laurie Gerber, your host, your dating coach, your truth teller, and a firm believer that love and dating can get better and better as we age. Please follow my lead. If you are over 50, if you are smart, if you are self-aware, if you are tired of repeating patterns, if Valentine's Day, depending on when you're listening to this, is coming up or just passed or just tends to get your goat and make you a little more tender and a little more reflective, this episode is for you. We're not talking about how to get a date for Valentine's Day. We are talking about how to stop choosing the wrong person so that the right one can actually show up. What we're going to cover is the 4 hidden causes that guarantee you pick the same every time. And then I'm going to go one by one through the solutions to each of those obstacles. This is what I love to do. There's 34 total obstacles I have discovered that people run into when they are trying to date in a healthy way, and I'm just knocking them down one by one here. So even if you don't fall into all of the 4 traps I'm going to cover, even if you just fall into one of them, it is enough to make dating hard and ineffective at finding what you really want. So by the end of this episode, I am committed to you understanding which obstacles you have and how to solve for them, as well as feeling better about Valentine's Day. I'm going to give you a little pep talk that's going to have you hopefully start to look at that holiday as a reset, as an opportunity, not as a reckoning moment or an opportunity to beat yourself up. Okay, let's talk about ending bad dating habits and starting to choose from the 3 H's. This is something I drill over and over again. If you're not familiar, go back to the start of episode 1 of season 1 and learn about the head, the heart, and the hoo-ha, the 3 H's. We are dating with all 3 voters in mind, all 3 voters attended to, listened to, and satisfied. If you're someone who has dated unavailable people, commitment phobic people, people who start strong and then fade, you are not alone. There is nothing wrong with you. You just might be unconsciously loyal to an outdated pattern. Attraction's kind of a primal thing. It's all not very logical, right? Usually it's the hoo-ha that is determining attraction, not the head or the heart. So if what you seem to be attracted to as a pattern from your past is not making you happy, is not feeling healthy, listen up. Valentine's Day, if you're listening to it right around then, is a great time to turn the pattern around because it's a holiday about love. And holidays don't create wounds. They sometimes reveal wounds, they don't create the wounds, but now that it's revealed, it can be healed, and that's what we're here for. Let me list those 4 root causes that I am talking about right now. Drum roll, please. I'm going to mention them briefly, and then I'm going to go into each of them in more depth and give you some solutions. Number 1, familiar feels safe even when it hurts. Familiar feels safe even when it hurts. So chemistry, or what we're often attracted to in the beginning of dating, often mirrors unfinished business from your family of origin. Hit the comments right now and tell me if that is true for you. I want to know if that one hits home. The second one is overriding head or heart or hoo-ha or 2 out of the 3. So we override head and heart often for hoo-ha when chemistry is leading the way, or we can vice versa do the same thing and intellectualize away attraction. In other words, let head get most of the vote and leave your hoo-ha out in the cold. Number 3 is we confuse potential with reality. You've probably heard me use the term hopium. I did not coin that term, but I heard it and I really liked it because it is the word that describes how a lonely person can start to delude themselves and want to stick with an investment in a person, even though they know in their heart of hearts that it is not a 3H match. And the 4th cause is that we mistake intensity for intimacy. So if there's chemistry, if there's trauma bonding, if there's love bombing, or even just in the honeymoon phase, if it feels really good, this can throw us off the scent of something that really isn't going to work. It can throw us off of actually making sure that we are staying true to all of our 3H criteria. So those are the 4 causes, let's just say, that I've determined are most frequently getting in the way of you picking new this time. So again, we get tired, we get overwhelmed. So many of you probably are thinking, maybe I don't even want to do dating anymore. I don't seem to be able to pick well. I don't seem to be able to make this last. I don't think there's any more good ones out there. And I want to entice you not to give up, but rather to look for the what I call the click or that moment of realization that you have been the one authoring the pattern. And that's really good news because it means you can change it. It means you can stop it. And so for each of the patterns I just mentioned, I'm now going to give you some advice on what to do. So familiar feels safer even when it hurts. So the most common version of this is the fixer upper. Right. So you are more together than the person you're dating, but they have potential. And if you worked harder, stayed longer, were more attractive, were kinder, tried more, then they would become worthy, better, healthier, less addicted. Just take a moment if that describes you. If you're like, uh-oh, I'm one of those fixers, please write to me in the comments. I want to hear what's going on. Does it remind you of one of your parents, either your dynamic with one of your parents or your parents' dynamics with each other? Because again, this is mirroring family of origin stuff that is unresolved that you keep repeating. Now, I don't think you keep repeating it because you're cursed. I think you keep repeating it because you are here to evolve it, to heal it, to finally, in honor of your lineage, break your lineage. Another familiar pattern from family of origin is the silent treatment or the buildup, where there's like slow, seething resentment, and then there's a blow up, and then there's repair, and then rinse, repeat with no real resolution to the underlying causes. If that's you, raise your hand, write to me in the comments. Again, you didn't come up with this. This is not an original concept. This is from family of origin, unresolved patterns you either had with your parents or you observed your parents have with each other. Another familiar pattern is you're trying to make it work for some reason other than compatibility. So this could be you're trying to make it work because you're lonely. You're trying to make it work because you have a financial need. You're trying to make it work because you feel guilty. You're trying to make it work for the children, only to be disappointed over and over and over again. Again, what's familiar to you? I may not have named your scenario, in which case add it to the comments below, but these are the types of ways that family of origin patterns keep showing up in our relationships, even in midlife, even in senior citizen life, right? Even as long as we can go and still have hope, but as long as we have not yet resolved those issues in our family of origin with ourselves. So ask yourself, what am I repeating? What is familiar from mom and dad or whoever raised you? What are you either imitating in them or reacting to that they were like, the relationships you observed? Or what are you still trying to get from a parent that you didn't get and you're trying to get it from a partner? Are you more like your mom? Are you more like your dad or whoever raised you? Start to really inspect that. That's the beginning, right? You can't probably move all the way through it without some sort of support from a therapist, a coach, a support group, but you can at least first think about that and notice what are the themes and what are they connected to. And if this is the first time you're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not just having issues out of the blue. This is connected to my lineage. It's connected to who my parents were, who raised me, what I experienced, what I observed. Welcome. It's going to explain a lot. And if you've been round and round with this, and maybe you've been in years of therapy and you've thought about this so much and you've journaled and you've cried and you've talked to people and you're still not to the bottom of it, here's your chance, right? Valentine's Day is this moment that we can actually use in honor of love to take one more look. Don't give up. Take one more look and go, what's the pattern I still have not detected and fully fleshed out? Spiritually speaking, I think you're here to evolve this. And that's why you're listening to me right now. It's not an accident that you're listening to me right now. So I'm excited to have you look one more time. I want you to start to think about redefining what love is. Now that you're kind of looking to see what you learned love is and what relationships look like, notice that you can change that. You can change the definition. Just like the way you express religion is probably different than your parents. The way your bad habits are probably different than your parents. There are probably ways you eat that are different than your parents, or ways that you live or were in your career. So we are constantly revising what we learn from our parents on purpose. You can do the same thing in love, but not if you're not aware of what that is. So I'm inviting you to consider a new version of love that is not about fixing, that is not about being good enough. Maybe there are people out there who want to communicate through conflict, who want to use communication through conflict to become smarter, wiser, closer, more intimate. Maybe there are other people out there like you who don't want to do it like they observe their parents doing. They're just like you. They want to do better. What if you can find real compatibility in the important things without working so damn hard? Start to believe that's possible. Start to prove that theory true instead of the theory that it's always going to be a repeat of what it's been, or there's nobody else out there like you or who wants what you want. Let's make this a conscious triumph over the past because you're choosing to believe in something new and revise what you learned. Problem number 2, you override one of the H's. For example, it's so hot, the chemistry's so good that you ignore totally different intellectual levels or logistical timelines or geographical possibilities. They seem so kind and agreeable, you're thinking it's okay to give up on ever feeling butterflies again. You hear the sellouts? You're just sick of showing up to events and parties alone, so you're going to make it work with the next person, even though something's fishy and the trust just isn't there. So that's one of each example of selling out on head, what actually works and is practical, selling out on heart, what's emotionally sound and healthy and feels good, and hoo-ha, selling out on chemistry or attraction or romance. If one of those voters is silenced, you will continue to repeat the pattern. If you're listening and you're thinking, what do you mean 3 H's? What do you mean head, heart, and hoo-ha? What exactly are you talking about? Run, don't walk to my webinar. It is still currently free, and it is at lauriegerber.com/webinar. lauriegerber.com/webinar. The webinar is called The 3 Secrets to Finding and Maintaining Healthy Love, and it will take you through literally how to make your 3H list, how to make your 3H chart, and really set you up to going into dating again, but this time with pristine clarity about how you sell out and about what you actually want. This is spiritual, folks. I know I've said it before and maybe you don't quite see how, but I really want to tell you that you are in conflict with your own dream, with your own higher self. It wants love for you. That's why you're listening right now. But your negative voices and your lower self want to argue, want to keep you where you are, want to keep feeding you fears. And so there is really an internal battle, and you need support and you need tools in order to win that fight. Okay, so the webinar is your first step. It's totally free as of now. Go ahead and click over there. Okay, now let's zoom into the exact moment when you usually abandon yourself with dating. Okay, where you sell out on one of these H's, where you ignore a red flag, where you rationalize compatibility despite disappointment, where you overfunction, you start overfunctioning emotionally, or you try to pretend you didn't hear something troubling. I want you to pinpoint your moment because everyone sells out at a different moment, right? And I want you to really know your brand so you can get ahead of it. Okay, so it could be as early as a dating profile. You see a location, you see a mention of religion, or like an intensity of religion, or a lack of intensity of religion, or a political dog whistle of some kind or another. And it makes you go, you scratch your head for a moment, but then you're like, no, 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 everything else looks great. I'm going to proceed. I will tell you, I find this with almost every client I go on the hunt with. The way that I look at profiles is very different from the way they look at profiles. Almost everybody has a little blind eye they turn to certain things that absolutely end up being important later. Okay, so figure out what you step over. Could be as early as the profile, could be as early in texting. The texting's going strong and then it becomes inconsistent, or it becomes inappropriate, or pushiness takes place, or dick pics take place, and you Again, you're like, well, everything else is good, so I'll just keep going. In the video date, they show up, they don't look like they said they looked or like the picture said, or you find out that they lied about something and you just want to excuse it away. You want to give them an excuse. It's not that I'm saying you need to rule out anyone who's inconsistent or anyone who has lied on their profile. I'm not saying that. I'm just asking you, where do you stop listening to your own voice? Because that voice is going to tell you things you need to talk about that may or may not be deal breakers. But because oftentimes they are deal breakers and we avoid them, we end up wasting time and becoming incredibly fatigued and hopeless about dating. Okay, on the first date, they treat you nicely, but they don't treat the waiter nicely or the hostess nicely. Okay, that's another one. Or maybe they had great behavior and they got you even to date three, where maybe they think they're going to get in bed with you, but then they stop prioritizing time with you if you're not jumping into bed with them, or even if you did jump into bed with them. So now you're several dates in, or possibly even several months in, and the tune has changed and you just want to stay invested. So where do you first find yourself stifling your voice, your one of your voices, your head, your heart, or your hoo-ha? Where do you abandon yourself? Please be accountable. Write it into the comments. If you can articulate it, write it, share it with us. That's going to make it more likely you don't do it anymore. And that's why we are creating this awareness. Now, once you know your patterns like the back of your hand, you can create rules for yourself. I am a huge fan of rules. I think they keep us safe. And I lay out the 3-date rule that I'm obsessed with in episode 4 of season 1. So if you're not familiar with the 3-date rule, head on back to episode 4 of season 1. But another rule I give my clients, besides 3 dates, is no, well, actually, this is essentially the rule, which is no fourth date unless all 3 H's are happy and no deal breakers are present. Okay, so that's a really simple, good rule that protects you from selling out on one of your H's. Another rule I give my clients who are looking for their long-term companion is no sex until you've established monogamy. And there's a bunch of other hoops too, which I'll go over in a later episode. But those are the types of rules that you can give yourself that are the antidote to picking the wrong person again and again and again. And they work. Rules protect you, but not without accountability. The rule itself will not protect you. You also need accountability. And that is why in my course, Master the Art of Love, we have a group, right? The group holds you to account. The coach holds you to account. So you're not just talking into the wind. Now, if you cannot afford a coach or you cannot afford my group coaching inside Master the Art of Love, or you're for some reason not eligible, write in on the comments. Get an accountability buddy. Okay, all is not lost if you cannot afford the highest level of accountability and community. There is always some form of accountability and community you can afford and you can engage in. My point is that accountability is available to you even if you can't afford to pay someone for it. And if you're interested in a more professional level of accountability through a group or through private coaching, my information is in the show notes. Now, you need the rule, and you need the rule to be specific to you and your particular form of sellout. Then you need accountability, either with one other person like a therapist, a coach, or a friend or a buddy, and bonus points if you have community cheering you on as well. That's going to be the formula for not falling into the pattern again. Number 3, you confuse potential with reality. And this is what happens when 2 out of the 3 H's are happy, fire and hot, but one little thing is missing. And then you find it so difficult to say no to something you've invested in where most of it works. I want to talk about the solutions if you were in that position, but I have to point out a very important distinction here, which is that one little thing that's wrong, and it may be more than one thing, right? As you all know from my discussion of quote unquote liabilities in episode 5, most people have about 7 liabilities. But when you're with someone who's really right for you, a good 5 out of those 7 is kind of a non-issue. And that just leaves 1 or 2 or 3 that need to be sorted out. And so what you need to then ask yourself is, because we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here, is that little thing that's niggling at you, is that a deal breaker or not? Right? That is a good, legitimate question to ask. I'm not telling you if you ever have a single doubt, you should just throw the person away. I need you to be mindful and have these conversations early on. So in order to check for real potential and not throw the baby out with the bathwater, but also not step over true deal breakers, these are my suggestions. Number one, slow the pace down. Do not have 100 dates in a month. Have a date a week. Do phone and video calls in between. Do texting in between. But don't have a ton of dates on top of each other. See the episode, which is episode 6 of season 1, about spark questions so that you can ask really good questions on your dates to get at the answers to your biggest quote unquote liability concerns. Watch behavior, not just the words that someone said. So a lot of people have figured out this dating thing and they know the right things to say, especially if you give them clues right off the bat. Like, I really love surfing. Do you love surfing? I believe in communication. Do you? You need to ask questions in a way that elicit honest, authentic, off the cuff answers so you actually learn what someone is really thinking and feeling. You also need to set up dates where you're going to see someone interact with other people. So in restaurants, on walks, going in and out of stores or galleries. You don't want to just lock in with them. You want to see how they interact with the world. Keep notes. Okay, I know that sounds so nerdy, but how else are you going to remember? If you were interviewing for a job, you would keep notes. If you were interviewing for a bunch of jobs, you would keep notes because you'd want to keep straight what you were learning about each of the candidates. It's not different with dating. You're going to need help remembering who's who and what's what. So keep notes after every interaction, after every date. Go ahead and write down what you've noticed about the 3 H's, about how they treat people, about how they treat you, about how you feel. So don't drink, stay sober, and journal after each date so you can't rewrite history later. It's going to be a trick not to lie to yourself. I admit it. I've learned this from 20 years of coaching people. It's going to be a trick not to lie to yourself. But I'm warning you now, there are ways to make sure all 3 voices are being heard and to be accountable and present in early dating. And I highly recommend you follow those ways. Okay. Last but not least, hot tip here is to look for the liabilities. Don't shy away from them. Actually look for them. And this is why by date 2 or 3, I'm asking my clients, tell me the 7 liabilities. I know that some of them will be non-issues and no big deal, but tell me, just make sure I understand this person as a 3-dimensional human. Okay, I don't want to just hear what's good. And then your next step after listing those 7 out, by the end of day 3 at the very latest, is to figure out if they are deal breakers or not. And what I've noticed is a couple of trends. Some things you really can work through, and some things really don't get worked out. They just really don't work. I would not even recommend trying. So just to give you a few examples, things that I see people working out pretty well are things like family conflicts, different schedules, different styles in bed, geographical differences, religious or political differences, or not my type, quote unquote. Those are the kinds of things I see people evolve if there's enough trust, affinity, love, fun, and camaraderie, rapport. Those things get sorted out inside a relationship. And there are many more to that list. Please don't think that's comprehensive. And if you have an example of something you work through with a partner, please go ahead and put it in the comments so we can all feel very hopeful about the kinds of things that can be worked through. But things that usually can't be worked through, and I don't even really think you should unless you have a really good reason, are things like true availability. Don't be convincing someone to be available who's not. Wait until they're available or pick people who are actually available. Emotional maturity, willingness to communicate and resolve conflicts healthfully, major self-esteem issues or addiction issues, conflict styles, like you don't resolve conflicts in the same way and their way is too far different than yours. Intellectual compatibility, kind of hard to fudge that one. Wanting the same thing. This one wants casual, this one wants long-term committed. This one wants to see other people, this one wants monogamy. No, don't try to change that. And if we were all younger, this is midlife dating, but if, in the younger days, I would always tell someone, don't try to date someone who wants kids or doesn't want kids if you're the opposite. That's the kind of thing that is a deal breaker and you don't want to try to change someone's mind about. And of course, inappropriate behavior or boundary crossing. That's, to me, across the board should be considered a deal breaker. So I hope this list and these examples, and please feel free to add to them in the comments, gives you an idea of how to not stop I hope this list starts to give you an idea of the kinds of things you can work with. And maybe this person really is different, or the kinds of things that are familiar. And oh my gosh, I'm doing it again. I'm trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. Let me not do that. Let's talk about the fourth hidden cause of picking the same person over and over again, and that is mistaking intensity for intimacy. Just because you have a lot of feelings for someone does not mean it's the one, that it's it. Sometimes someone can make you fall for them even though they are not right for you. So check yourself. The most common, as I've said, is chemistry overriding the other H's. Trauma bonding, right? That's a real thing. So you want to ask yourself, do you have work to do working on your own trauma? Is this person working out trauma with you? Where should you be doing that work? Should you be doing it through dating, or should you be doing that with a professional? That's different from genuine interest, empathy, concern. That is the role of a friend or a partner, but professional trauma work is professional. It's somebody who is trained in that. And so the question to ask yourself to sort of see, like, am I picking someone new, is where am I in my personal growth and where are they in their personal growth? And you don't have to be same, but you have to be kind of close, or at least interested on it being in sort of the same level of personal growth. And that's important for people listening to podcasts like this who are into personal growth, who are into becoming better and better. You probably need to be with somebody who at least respects, encourages, and admires that, if not joins you in it. And so to determine whether you are possibly trauma bonding with somebody, ask yourself, is his need a turn on to you? Or is his wanting to rescue you a turn on to you, right? What is turning you on? Because answers to questions like that will give you a hint at whether or not you're using the relationship or the early dating in a healthy way, or in a way that's actually a substitute for professional help. Love bombing, that's another one, right? That can feel so good when you're getting so much attention, or when you're giving so much attention. It can feel so exciting, but it's really a red flag, because healthy relationships develop slowly over time with lots of real life in between. And they are not a compensation for a lack of something or a hole that's being filled. So watch for love bombing. It's not the healthiest place to be coming from in getting into a new relationship. I think that's pretty obvious. I'm not saying you couldn't overcome it or surmount it, but it's a really, really big red flag. And then there's just the honeymoon phase, which is, you're probably thinking, Laurie, well, how do I know? I mean, I'm really happy. I like this person. I think they are the one. I don't think they're like everybody else. And the answer is, you don't really know. You don't really know until you've been through 7 months with them and the PR agent has retired and you're being yourselves more with one another. You're not trying to impress each other anymore. You've met all the people, you've heard all the stories, and then a year goes by and you've been through all the seasons and all the life cycle events and met even more people. So there's no way around putting in time is going to help you really know for sure, which is why, again, no rush to get married, right? No rush to make a long-term commitment to somebody at this stage of life. How lucky you get to really do your due diligence and dig in and continue to assess over time. And if you're smitten with someone, it doesn't mean you need to stop dating them. If one of these things is present, it means you have to ask and answer these questions honestly for yourself and keep your wits about you. Okay, keep your wits about you. Keep your wits about you. So if you're now in a relationship and you're listening and you're wondering, am I falling into this fourth category? Just head back to episode 1 real quick, where we define your type, your pattern, and do a little, just do a little spot check to see who are you really looking for, and does this person meet that criteria? And then it's the opportunity after date 3, let's say 1, 2, 3, 5, 7, 12 months in, to make sure you're talking about everything, that there are no off limits topics. And I tell my daters between 1 and 2 months, you should be knowing this person's bio. You should be knowing about all the areas of this person's life, both their dreams and their current realities. And you should be knowing about their personality traits, the good traits and the bad traits. And you should be knowing about the incidents that have shaped them in their life. These are the minimum things I find out from clients before I even have one coaching session. I want to get to know someone so well so that I can be a great coach. I find out their bio, all their areas of life, their personality traits of their parents, and all the incidents that have shaped them. So of course, if you're going to get into bed with someone or you're going to get serious with someone or be monogamous with someone, I would recommend you finding out at least that level as well. And if not, why not? Why are you avoiding it? That niggling voice, that's the one to listen to, please. And I am your real life niggling voice on the outside. I'm sure you have one on the inside. I am going to be that voice on the outside. That is my download of good dating advice built from 20 years of coaching people in the field to pick differently. Finally, pick differently, avoid picking the same one over and over and over again. And now for the Valentine's Day pep talk, which I have foreshadowed. Valentine's Day is a crock, okay? It's meant to manipulate you. It is meant to make money, okay? It makes people feel bad whether they're single or in couples. Let me tell you, everyone pretty much feels bad about Valentine's Day. Maybe there's like a nice high schooler that's planning something really romantic for their partner, and still feeling good about Valentine's Day. But for most people, it's a lot of pressure. It's pressure if you're single and you feel alone and left out, and it's pressure if you're in a couple to come up with something new or really romantic, and people aren't communicating. So there's just so much opportunity to fail and to feel bad. So, you could scrap it all together as far as I'm concerned, or you could reclaim it. And I'm all for a good reclaim. And if you're going to reclaim it, I would suggest that you reclaim it as the New Year's for love, since it's not that far from actual New Year's in some calendars. It's a great time to go, okay, if that 6 weeks didn't work out, I'm starting over yet again. This is my New Year's for love. And if you were listening to my podcast back at the turn of the year, and I was talking about Dating Sunday being one of the most active times for dating sites, well, guess what? So is Valentine's Day. So is mid-February. It's a very active time because people are thinking about love and partnership, and they're kind of getting out of their haze of the holidays, and spring is coming. And so it's also another good reset. It's a good New Year's moment to go, okay, I think I'm ready to try this again. Give love a chance again. So you can use it that way too, and use all the wisdom here to make it better, easier, more fun. Here's the homework. Write down the last 3 people you dated and identify one repeating theme, or it could be a pendulum, this theme, then that theme, then this theme, then that theme. Write down that early signal you ignore, please, and then either create your 3H chart that I've been talking about all this time, or update your 3H chart if you already have one, because I've been yakking about it for so long. Add another non-negotiable if you found one. Remove an outdated fantasy if you found one that was just, not a real person kind of a dream. So keep that 3H chart up to date. And then have a little chat with yourself and decide, what am I going to do differently this time? What am I going to do differently in the text phase? What am I going to do differently with the video chat? What am I going to do differently on that first date that is going to help me avoid picking the same person again and again? That's your homework. Thanks so much for taking it on. Write to me in the comments if you have questions about it or what results you got from doing it. And next week's going to be so great. I am going to tell a real life story, the kind I wish every woman could hear before she gives up or before she settles. It is a story about love and dating after divorce. Has a few fun twists to it that you're not going to see coming. It does have a genuinely happy ending. I will give you that spoiler, but some fun twists and turns and new lingo, and it's just actually a really good story. And there is a moment in the story, a very specific moment, where almost every woman I coach would have probably walked away, but it turned out to be great, and the entire outcome hinged on what happened with that particular issue. And this conversation is with my very own coach and the creator of the Handel method, which is the method from which I teach these 3 H's. And her name is Lauren Handel-Zander. So she is going to be with me. It's going to be a hoot, folks. Mark your calendars, set your alarms for Friday, 7 a.m. That's coming out next week. If you loved today's episode, which I hope you did, make sure that you go back and listen to all of them. I've referenced many that would be specifically helpful right now, but you can just go back and listen from episode 1 all the way through. One does build upon the other, and so it is lovely to do that if you haven't yet. And until next week, please continue to date like you mean it. Or if you're stuck, talk to me in the comments, please. I am here to help.